Hey, my name is Moth, and today I'm going to teach you how to make an automatic tail swing in Live2D. Say you have a Live2D model where you want the tail or other appendage to swing automatically regardless of whether your tracking is working or not. This video might be the one for you then, because I'm going to show you how to make it swing automatically in the simplest ways possible while explaining it in the simplest terms possible. Without further ado, let's begin. So the first thing we're going to want to do is select all the layers to your tail. In this case, we only have one, so we just got to select that. Afterwards, we're going to need to update the mesh. That would be all these little dots that you see on the tail right now. As since this tail is going to be swinging in a lot of directions, we're going to need to make sure that we have a lot of meshes to prepare for that. So how do we add more meshes? What we got to do is go to the squares up top here. We got to select the one that shows a triangle that says auto. Click on that. When you click on that, this little tab will pop up, and you'll have specifically three options. You'll have standard, you'll have little, and you'll have heavy. Right now, it's currently on standard, but we might want to go with heavy. And you'll see when we hit heavy, the mesh will change and it'll have more dots. So let's click right now, and as you can see, boom, more dots. And that's exactly what we need. I also found that there is a better method to update your tail rig or hair rigs when you want the meshes to look really, really good and heavy just isn't cutting it. I'm going to show you one that I found off of a YouTube video. I'm going to link it down below, where I think this one helps out really well. If you follow those numbers right there in the settings page, you'll get almost practically clean meshes that have more than heavy normally would, as well as having it cover completely without having the issue of having to edit it yourself. Once you got that, it should be all good. So now that we got the mesh adjusted, the next step is to actually get this sucker moving. And the way we do that is by using a bunch of rotation deformers. We're not just going to use one, we're going to use at least a total of 6. But that's going to sound very tedious if we have to name each and every one of them each and every time. But what if I told you that there's a tool here that lets you do all of that without having to name it manually every single time? All you got to do is just click on this one over here. I don't know the exact term for it, but I like to call it like the rotation chain. But if you ever wanted to know exactly which one you're looking for, you just got to find the square that shows 2 circles with a line across them instead of the single circle. So click on that. This way you don't actually have to name the deformer, you just have to pick the spot, left click, hold, and drag it down. For this point, we're going to need to get the top of the tail. Let's click right there, hold the left side on your mouse, just drag it down like so. And from here, just do that at least 6 more times. We've got a few of them that aren't quite centered like we want them to. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back up here. We're going to click on the arrow. And instead of just selecting it and moving it, we're going to select our red circle, hold the control key. And while we're holding the control key or the equivalent on your device, just move it over to a little bit until you feel like it's centered. They don't have to be centered, but if you feel like they're a little too off to the side, you could just do that. And we have at least a total of 8 of these red circles. And that is all right. That should work perfectly. Now, I will say, the more of these red circles you have for this, the bigger the swing will be. For example, right now, we'll probably get a decent swing left to right, very fluid, very natural. But if you wanted that big fox or wolf tail swing that you usually see on a lot of Live2D models, you're definitely gonna probably have to double this number of red circles, a rotation deform. But for right now, this should be fine. So now that we have our rotation deformers, our red circles, the next thing we're gonna want to do is select all of those red circles along with the tail. Now the way you can do that is just by selecting the very first top one all the way up there and go all the way to the bottom one, and before you click on that bottom one, hold the shift key or the equivalent on your device. Once you click on that, boom, it'll select everything in between those ones. Now that you got everything selected, what we're going to want to do is go to the top of the screen, and amongst the top of the screen, we're going to want to look for the tab that says modeling. Once you find modeling, you're going to want to click on modeling. And from there, you're going to find a bunch of other options from there. In those options, you're going to want to look for the one that says skinning. And from skinning, we're going to be using 2 out of the 3 options that have popped up from skinning. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Right now, we're just going to start with the first one. The first step is the one that also says skinning. Once you find the one that says skinning, click on it. Then, going to set something up for you. On the surface, it looks like absolutely nothing has happened. But if we scroll all the way back down to where the tail is in the deformer tab, you will notice that we don't just have one tail layer, we have multiple, and one of them seems to be hidden. I'll explain what that is soon enough, but first, let's look at one of these new ones that are here, Tail 0. If you will see, you'll notice that it's a little broken up. It didn't select the entire thing. In fact, it only selected a portion of that. We go to Tail 1, that's another portion, and another portion, and another portion, and another portion. You'll notice that it just broke that tail layer into multiple parts. And if you're thinking to yourself, wait, is it supposed to do that? Yes. And if you're thinking to yourself, wait, does that mean I just lost the single layer? What if I want to get that single layer back? Do not worry. That's what the hidden one. Bring back this one that just says tail. You will see that that is the original and it has not been touched. That is why that one is hidden, because that is the one that is not being dealt with. Now that we have everything selected, the next step that we're going to want to do is go and do the same thing as before. Click the top one, hold the shift key or the equivalent on your device, click the bottom tail layer while holding said shift key, and now it has everything selected, but it also has the original tail layer selected. We don't want that. We really don't want that. So what do we do about that? We deselect that one while still holding on to everything else. And the way we can do that is by holding the control key or the equivalent on your device while clicking on the original layer. And then boom, that one is no longer selected. Now that we got all of that sorted out, next step is to go back to modeling. As I said, we're going to use 2 out of the 3 options that came from the skinning tab. So we're going to use that second option now. So go back to modeling, scroll all the way down till you'll find skinning. And from there, we're going to want to generate parameter from rotation deformer. Let me tell you, it sounds like a lot, but you actually won't have to do a lot here, but this tool will be doing a lot for you. So what does it do exactly? Essentially, it makes a lot of dials for your rotation, for your red circle, and you don't have to do anything about that. It makes it all itself. There's only just a couple steps that you actually have to do in order for all of this to happen. Again, go to skinning, and from skinning, go to generate parameters. When we click on that, it'll ask, what do you want to name the parameter names? And we're just going to go with tail. Just tail, that's it. And we put OK. And it's going to ask, what are the ranges on all of that? That's the swing left to right. How far do you want that swing left to right to go? In this case, 30 is fine. We don't actually have to do anything on that. So the simplistic part about all of this is, 1, you just name it, and you put OK. And the second part, if you don't really want to edit anything about the ranges, again, leave it alone and put OK. Looks like nothing happened. But if we look at that parameter tab down there, and we scroll all the way to the bottom, you will notice a new folder just popped up called tail. Let's open that folder and see what's inside. When we open that folder, you will notice that it just made a bunch of these parameters, a bunch of these dials, and it registered all of those to the tail. So now we have all those settings, all those parts, all that setup, all on its own. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it may look a little bugged, it may look a little wonky, it may look a little nasty. If you want to adjust that yourself, you just got to go to these specific layers that are looking a little wonky, go to those specific layers and register them to set parameters and see what you can do to fix all of that. In this case, depending on which ones they are, find out which of these dials are making it look wonky and which layers are the ones that are getting wonked. Ignore that phrase. Anyway, that's going to take a while and we're not here to see all of that. But just know that you can adjust it the way you see fit. But sometimes all of that may not even be necessary. We're going to find out right now if it's absolutely necessary to adjust all of that. So now that we set up the parameters and we set up all those deformers, the red circles, it's time to get to the actual physics settings part. So in order to get to your mesh settings, what you're going to want to do is go back to the top of the tab up here and we're going to want to look for modeling again. But we're not looking for skinning this time. No. When we click on modeling, we're going to want to go all the way to the bottom to where it says physics settings. When we click on that, we'll be over here. Now, normally, if you've set up physics settings for other parts, those will pop up. But we need to make something new for the tail now. We're going to speed through this part a little bit, but if you want a more in-depth version of setting up your physics settings, we have a video ready for you on that one in the description below. So for this, we need to make our new tail physics setting here. So let's go to group, let's go to add, click on that. We're going to make a new one and we're going to call it tail. And we're going to give it nothing else other than a name. Nothing else, then we put OK. From there, we're going to want to set up our input. Now, this is the part where things get a little different. Normally for input, you would probably put angle X or angle Y or angle Z, something that would have it move left to right. But as I mentioned before, we're going to go with something that requires nothing from you. It'll work automatically. Now, which one would work automatically, you might be wondering? Well, let's actually take a look at the parameters that we currently have right now. And if you'll notice, these dials being our parameters, only one of them is moving. Only one of them is swaying left to right. Everything else is stationary unless we actually put some actual input of our own. But if we put no input, no movement at all, only one of them moves. That's right. We're going to need to put breath as the input. So let's go to add input and let's look for the one that says breath. We're going to put OK. And we're going to go to the effect and probably put that all the way to 100. This way we'll get the full motion from that parameter, that dial alone. We also want to make sure that the type is not position, but angle. Let's put angle. There we go. That part's all set. Put breath as your input, angle for your type, 100 for the effect. This way, it'll turn left to right instead of moving left to right. We don't want it to move, we want it to turn. Angle is for the turning. Now that we got that set up, what we're going to want to do next is go to our preset. So let's go for one that should work just fine for this. Let's go for the 10 divided for our preset. This way we get at least 10 pendulums for this. Let's put import, and as you can see, not a lot of movement on that, and that's okay. But that's also because we got to adjust a few things a bit. Number one, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need only 7 of these. So let's actually delete a few. Now that we got 7 for each and every one of these dials, we should be all set for that part. Now for the last thing before we go into the output. We put our range at 30 for each of these dials. But if you look at the normalization of input, you'll notice that the angle only goes to 10 and 10. We don't want that. So let's make sure that's at 30. 30 there, negative 30 there. Then we should be all good. Now we'll get a full swing from that. A full swing across the way. Time to actually test the actual movement, which is go to the output. And we go to add. On add, we're going to go all the way down to the bottom and select all of our new tail parameter settings. All these new dials that are at the bottom, we select each and every one of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Once we get there, we put OK, and as you will see, it barely moves, and that is completely okay. That's usually how it always goes. So next step, we got to go back up top and increase the output and see where it goes from there. Let's put OK. And as you can see, the tail swings a bit. Thank you all for watching. I hope this helped you in some way, shape, or form, and I will see you in the next video.